We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
We are a group of friends, bound by our appreciation for liberty and good podcasting. Free-minded thinkers from all walks of life, our values come together with one accord to discuss the common culture and news of the day, along with whatever random crap is going on in our lives. Welcome to the Union of the Unknowns. All right. Thank you, President Biden. And thank you, Kyle, for that expertly delivered introduction. And thank all of you, our listeners. I'm your host today, Keel Thor, coming to you from my humble underground recording studio in the outskirts of Metro Atlanta, the great state of Georgia, USA. With me today are the unknowns. We've got the lovely Atlanta connector, Jackie. And from the rain-soaked metropolis of Seattle, the aptly named Big Perm, we have from broadcasting from his Toonstead in the free state of New Hampshire, the cool one, Toons. And last but certainly not least, the always irresistible, the unflappable, Ism Can't. Today, welcome everybody. Today I want to talk about a topic that I believe forms the basis of what we do here. That is our red pill moments, our political awakenings, when we began to question our reality. We all come to these moments from different angles, and I believe that our listeners would find it helpful to hear our stories. Not only that, but if we can provide some advice or talk about real life experiences about helping others, our friends and family, reach that moment. So, Jackie, why don't you kick us off here? I want to hear your story about when you realized that all of the stuff we hear in the news and the stuff the president says and the stuff our experts tell us is largely bullshit. And how you've changed your life to accommodate that realization.
Well, it's probably back in my 20s. I don't really know like an exact moment. I just know that in my 20s, I started just knowing that the government was full of crap, and that the government, like when I was looking at the different, especially, I'll tell you, like part of it was like, especially after 9/11, that's when I realized that it was like a hit job against our own people from our own government. The ones that we duly elected, allegedly elected into office. So anyhow, I just knew it was bullcrap, but I always like saw these things with my faith, my Christianity and stuff. I saw these things where I just saw ways that the government was trying to come in and replace God and be your God. Like they want to be your savior. They want to look at, they come in, they create the disaster, and then they want to come in and like protect you. But I don't know the exact moment, but it was definitely right around 9/11, and that's when I really started paying more attention to politics. And then when I would get into disagreements with some of my friends that were more leftist, and I would be like, they're all full of crap anyways, and they're all on the same team, so what does it even matter? Why are we even arguing about this? It doesn't matter. Right.
I think 9/11 is a big one for a lot of people. What about Big Perm? What do you say about that? Was it 9/11 also for you?
No, 9/11 came later for me. It was actually in 2001 though, around the time 9/11 happened. And I always have said for the last few years when people ask me what woke you up, I've always said in 2017, I met a coworker who started teaching me about crypto and then dropping truth bombs on me about other things in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But lately I've been thinking back, and there's been little drops of knowledge going back to 2001 that I just didn't realize was waking me up a little bit at a time. In 2001, I had this history teacher. I was a junior in high school. Right around the time 9/11 happened, I was in his class when, like, we were watching the second tower fall. And anyway, he taught us that George Washington wasn't the first president, and he said John Hanson was. And I had never heard anything like that. This is ridiculous. But I went and told my dad, hey, did you know that George Washington wasn't the first president? My history teacher told us that this guy John Hanson was. He was like, well, are you just going to take his word for it, or are you going to look into it? So I'm like, all right, good call. So I started digging deeper, and I found out that there was like 6 more presidents before John Hanson, and that Samuel Huntington was the first president. And it just differed between being like under the Articles of Confederation and under the current Constitution or whatever.
Mhm.
So that taught me to at least like not take everything at face value and do my own research a bit. But I didn't think of that as any kind of waking up moment. It was just, at the time anyway, it was just, growing up, I guess. But then in 2000, I'd say 8-ish or something, I read a book by Michael Crichton called State of Fear. And the book it's fictional, but there was like eco-terrorists that were like purposely causing natural disasters in the name of like climate change emergency type of thing. So they'd cause these natural disasters and point to them like, we need to do something to fix the planet or whatever. Humans are ruining the planet. Kind of like what we see now. Like they're just like bombarding us with climate change thing after, all day. So at the time I was like, never thought about like propaganda and that people could actually do things like this. Obviously, it was fiction, but Michael Crichton was known to put a lot of actual science and research into his fictional books. So that got me thinking, like, maybe the whole climate change agenda is a hoax. And this is, 14 years ago. But again, I never thought myself as woke. It was just another drop in the bucket of knowledge that now that I've realized has kind of molded who I am. And then in 2017 is when I really just started deep diving, and podcasts were way more accessible, and started listening to The Conspiracy Farm and Tinfoil Hat and Truth or Theory, and then The Propaganda Report, and so on and so on. Those conspiracy guys from Ireland, they really go super deep, like 6-hour episodes on every topic. So that's how I really started learning like the ins and outs of all these conspiracies. Not that I buy into all of them, but I definitely am interested to hear the research.
Yep. Research is key. I think one of the pillars of becoming aware of your, the reality we live in is doing your own work, doing your own research. You can't sit there and talk to somebody and they'll tell you some crazy story and you just believe it because it's going to sound crazy. You gotta go out there and look up the facts.
Yeah, doing your own research is obviously number one, but at the same time, I think it's really helpful to put together a group of different researchers that their research is panned out over and over again to where that you can kind of trust most of what they say, so you don't spend your entire time researching everything. Like people like Monica, I trust Monica Perez from the Monica's Deep Dives and the Propaganda Report. She does solid research, and I don't sense that anything she's ever said, whether it was correct or not, was purposely incorrect.
Yeah, definitely.
But
She
she's
might not
been-
be right all the time, but she's not gonna lie to you.
Correct.
100%. And she's spot on so much. Oh my gosh. Like I'm like, Monica, you say something and then like a few days later it happens. I'm like, what the frickety crack is going on here?
She definitely has a good Nostradamus brain on her, I think. So Justin, you seem to me to be the kind of person who didn't really, and Tunes also are both guys that don't, I look at you guys and I think you weren't buying anything anybody ever told you ever.
We don't play by the rules.
Yeah.
I think it is a personality type to buck trends, I guess, to tread your own path. So I think from the rip, guys like me and Justin were already primed to use colorful language. You know, fuck off, don't tell me what to do. I think it's just a personality type for some of us.
But it's I think what really helped me keep my eyes open was I didn't finish high school. So I didn't have that extra 4 years of state programming to you know, salute the flag and salute the picture of Abraham Lincoln on the wall as if he was some hero of quote unquote democracy.
Let me ask you, Justin, was one of your first moments when you first started working and you saw your paycheck and you saw that I'm supposed to make X, but this much went to Daddy Gov.
Shit, I mean, I've been doing a lot of overtime this summer, and I
Yeah.
had my biggest paycheck ever, and then I watched a third of it just.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
And it's like, oh, well, that's why I worked an extra 20 hours this week so that government could get an extra grand.
And if you really look into it, like, I mean, depending on what state you live in, there's months of work per year that you volunteer involuntarily for Uncle Sam.
Right. Well, and it's one of those things where a lot of people are saying like, if everyone just stopped paying taxes, then what would the government would have no choice other than to listen to the people. So then they're going like, dude, we got 30 trillion in just debt, not even counting unfunded liabilities like Social Security. Like 80% of all US dollars have been made in the past 18 months. You really think that's tax revenue is chump change for them? The only reason that they take taxes is to keep you from saving up too much money so that you'll always have a reliance on the government.
That may have been viable when we had sound money, gold
Right.
standard. Yep.
Yeah, if they couldn't just hit zero on the fucking keyboard at the end of the Federal Reserve's bank account, then
At this point, it can't be a human hitting zero either. It's got to be AI. I don't think a human could hit zero fast enough.
just stick something like a toothpick in the keyboard and just
That's it. Yeah, that's
zero
it.
press down 24/7.
Yeah.
No, it's wild. But I'm actually a little surprised. I figured this entire episode was just going to be people talking about how Ron Paul brought them into the liberty movement. I say I kind of have a Ron Paul story, but actually my first experience was listening to Dave Smith on, it was either Ari Shafir's State of the Union podcast or Joe Rogan had him on. And I was brand new to podcasts. I was like, you know what? Taxation is theft. Like, that makes sense. And I've always been pretty apolitical. I've never voted in my life because I'm not gay. But I mean, voting is fake and gay. If anything's fake and gay, it's voting. But it just rung true to me. And then so I do have like a kind of Ron Paul, because Ron Paul's who turned Dave Smith. Although I'm not the biggest Dave Smith fan anymore. So take that for what you will.
I didn't know about Ron Paul until he ran for president back in whenever that was the first time. And
His first time was, I believe, back in the 80s on the Libertarian Party.
88, I believe.
Yeah, not the
Yeah,
first
so.
time.
And then
Um,
2008 and 2012, I believe he also ran, with 2012 being his departure out of politics and just into public or private life.
Yeah, it was when the Tea Party thing started is when I first started hearing about Ron Paul.
To
And
be
then,
honest, I didn't really know anything about Ron Paul until I joined this community.
really, wow.
Oh, it's I mean, I won't say every episode, but almost every episode of Ron Paul's Liberty Report. It's a must listen for me. They're usually 10, maybe 20 minutes long, and it's just packed full of just liberty and in because Ron Paul, he was in government for decades, so he really knows how it all works. So I really do think he's a good person to listen to as far as what can be done versus what must be done, which is a whole nother podcast.
Sure. So we got podcasts, and what about you? I don't know if you mentioned Tunes, what really sparked your
I've been chewing this over since you mentioned it, and I really don't think there was a specific moment. But a big thing for me is just starting to work. College was out of the picture for me. You know, not that I was dumb, but I hate school. I just can't stand sitting still. I can't. I'm a blue collar kind of guy. So I went to work 3 days after, but well, before I graduated, but 3 days they let us out. They let seniors go before they graduated in like May, and I was already working full time by the time I graduated high school. And when, you know, I knew that was the plan. I knew I was gonna go, you know, forge my path, you know, like a frontiersman. You know, I'm gonna make my riches off the sweat of my brow. But you know, you get your first paycheck, and I was living in Massachusetts at the time, and I'm looking at the thing, and I'm like, so I'm supposed to make, it was probably, you know, $10 an hour, 40, you know, $400, and I'm taking home, you know, 280 because why? So I think that was the first moment for me that I was like, this is definitely a scam, because Uncle Sam's not hooking me up for, you know, a third of my paycheck. You know, I'm not getting that back. So I think that was the biggest red pill moment. And then, you know, like Perrin was saying earlier, I think it's a slow drip for a lot of people. And then there might be a single story that slaps you right in the face. So I was a slow drip kind of guy. I was on the libertarian train when COVID came around. But once COVID came around, and you know, the government told me I can't go to work because of germs, I you know, that's when everything was fake for me. Yeah, that was the I don't know, that may be the black pill moment for me, to be completely honest. But yeah.
well, let's you know, let's not go over the edge, you know. We don't want to
Right.
black pill everybody.
No,
Uh,
no, I know.
For me, I was kind of the same. There wasn't a single moment for everything, but there were moments I can remember that shifted my mind as I was coming up. The big one I always remember, though, is when I was in college and I was reading my political science book, and I was reading about the different political philosophies that were kind of mainstream, and they had libertarianism in there. And I'd never heard of that. My parents are both conservative Republicans. You know, you should always vote for Republican because Democrats don't know what they're doing, that kind of attitude. And so when I heard, wait a minute, I can not want to pay a bunch of taxes, and I don't have to hate my pot smoking friends. Why am I not doing this? You know? So that after that point, I was gobbling up political philosophy and current events and stuff as much as I could. But you know, I didn't get angry about stuff until years later. the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and 9/11, those never sat right with me. And I wasn't in conspiracy stuff yet at that point, although I knew about conspiracies. But that's when I got really angry at the government for kind of ignoring the principles that the country was based on, and pissing all over the Constitution, and all
And
this
for mass murder, man, not for
mass
nothing.
murder. And then years later after that, the coworker recommended Alex Jones, and he says all of his wacky stuff, and so that forced me to have to research things like Big Perm was saying. And anyway, I started listening to podcasts too, but I didn't. I used to listen to Neil Bortz back in the day on WSB radio, and he's a libertarian guy since retired. But when I heard Monica Perez on WSB, and she referred to herself as an anarcho-capitalist, which I had already been calling myself at that time, I was like, holy shit, what is this lady talking? I've never heard anybody say that outside of my own head. And so that just put the hook in me. And
This may be a thread that we can pull on for a future topic, but it is interesting that because you grew up where you grew up, that you had to vote Republican and your parents are conservative. And it's the polar opposite where I grew up, with suburbs of Boston, where we're liberals and our parents vote Democrats, and that's just what you do. It's funny how it's very regional and very it's just in the water. I'm curious how that started and what contributes to that, because it does definitely seem regional and almost like legacy. The team red gets team red spots and team blue gets team blue spots. I'm curious if anybody's done any research on that topic.
I
To
can at
derail
least
us real quick.
speak to both sides of that, actually, right? I grew up with parents that were conservative Republican. I've been voting Republican since I was old enough to vote. And even in grade school, we had a fake polling or voting booth set up, and they gave us a chance to fill out a sheet of paper and vote. And I remember voting for Bob Dole in like 3rd grade or something like that. And it wasn't until 2016 that I voted, or that I didn't vote Republican on an election, and I went libertarian. And it wasn't because I knew anything about libertarian. I just couldn't vote for Trump and I couldn't vote for Hillary. So I went with the only other option at the time.
Is that Gary Johnson?
Yeah.
I
And he
voted
was on
for him.
Rogan, so that was fun. But so my parents split up when I was like 9, and my dad ended up marrying a girl from Philly. And he is now a Democrat. And they are like, we're all about Obama and stuff. And my mom and stepdad are all about, not all about Trump, but they're conservative and voted Trump or whatever. So it's kind of funny how you said like the New England East Coast-ish area, you had the liberal mindset over there.
It's something in the water, I think.
And Bob Dole was the first actual election that I voted in. And I cast my vote for Bob Dole.
I'm Bob Dole.
Yep.
Me too. I was like 7.
He said he was going to get rid of the income tax. That
I mean,
guy.
it is
That was
unconstitutional.
before when we actually thought that they could actually get in if the system didn't want them in, right?
Yeah.
I think I started voting when it was the first Bush, I think. And that was when I was totally blind to how corrupt it actually was. Like, I just didn't believe the government as a whole. But that's when I believe that like voting still actually worked and all that stuff.
I feel like this is Jackie's origin story on how she got started at the CIA. It started with voting for Herbert Walker Bush.
Right.
And I mean, he was just coming off the head of the CIA.
Yeah.
So it all comes together.
Tap on the shoulder, and then 20 years later.
Here we go.
And now she's getting us all here on video talking about what would now be called domestic terrorist ideology.
Oh yeah,
So-
according to your president.
Yeah, she's gonna lock us up soon.
Not my president. Y'all remember that? That was the best.
Yes, that's when they were talking about Trump, right? Not my president.
I believe that
Yeah.
started with Obama, didn't
I was
it?
about to say, and other people said with Obama. Yeah.
And people
So-
say with Joe now too.
So to tap into the original topic, how do you speak to people that actually do believe that not my president? You know, I more think of Trigglypuff, Trump derangement syndrome people when I put that question out there. But how do you talk to normies? First of all, how are there still normies now after the last 10 years that we've gone through? How are people still living in the matrix?
I
They
don't know.
they are more comfortable. It's all about comfort. If you stray from the mainstream narrative, it's not comfortable. We've been doing it for so long that we're fine with it, but when you've been lied to your whole life, it doesn't feel good to look at yourself in the mirror and think like, fuck, I've been just a sheep all this time.
Well, and there's nothing harder than admitting that not only what I believe was wrong, but everything that I've been advocating for is wrong. So if you ever choose to cross that line, now you have to redeem yourself because, well, look at all this evil that I've been advocating for all of these years. And I think that's just a line most people are unwilling to cross. But to the first question, how do you talk to normies? My answer is you don't. You mock and ridicule them. I don't know what else you can do.
Yeah, I agree. I was in Walmart today and there's still dudes wearing masks, and I'm like, how do you think that a piece of paper is going to protect you from germs? Like,
Well, and it'd be one thing
Unbelievable.
if people were actually wearing properly fitted like KN95 masks, I'd be like, okay, maybe, maybe. But there's just still walking around with these flimsy ass fucking probably asbestos ridden masks stuck to their face.
Yeah, I'm seeing more masks now than I did 3 months ago. It's like something changed and it's picked up here. Like people are walking around outside with masks on. And like you said, they're all wearing these cloth masks. It's like you're dumb enough to wear the mask, but you're not even like being safe about it.
Right? No one ever just uses a surgical mask as it was
No.
intended to be used as a one-time usage, dispose of it. You never touch your face. You only touch the things that pull around your ears. It's people, they carry their masks on the rearview mirror if they're not wearing it while they're driving by themselves.
I have to wear a respirator, like a big boy, full face with tight fit respirator. And if you don't wear that right, you get fucked up real quick. And you can smell the fumes of the chemicals that we use for work. Like, you're gonna tell me that like a germ is gonna be protected because you pulled your shirt over your mouth? Like, let's do an experiment real quick, right? I'm gonna smoke my cigar and blow it through my fucking shirt.
Yeah, they had to put out a notice to everyone at work to not bully or make fun of people still wearing masks at work because it's their choice to wear the masks. And you
It
see
was
these
never our
people,
choice to not wear a mask, though.
you
Fuck
see
off.
these people coming
Fuck
in
off.
with
Bully
a
the
piece
shit
of
out of 'em.
fabric on their face, and it's like,
Give me a break.
at least wear the N95 if you're scared. Like, who am I to tell you you can't be scared? But if you're gonna be scared, at least use some fucking sense.
And if we're
But
gonna be
obviously they
scared,
don't have any sense, so I don't know why even look in their direction anymore.
There was a lady when I was going down to the pool last night to smoke me a cigar. A cigar. I've been listening to Bill Burr too much. Sorry. I tagged you
Sound
on
like
that
Bruce.
tune,
I
by the
scared
way.
off Jackie's friend last night.
Which friend? What are you talking about?
There was a guy sitting with you, and I kept playing all those noises, and he
Oh,
left.
Larry. No, you didn't scare him off. He was tired of smelling my cigar. Tunes, I tagged you on one of his podcasts where you were talking about Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so as I was walking down there, she was talking to this other lady, but recently, like a month or so ago, she got the vid and the okey doke or whatever we call it. And she kept, they were walking outside to walk the dog. Nobody was around them. They had a mask on. We have COVID. Like, she was wearing it like it was a badge of honor or something. And I was like, okay, whatever. Nobody cares, lady. We don't give a shit. None of us are vaccinated that are sitting over here, and we still don't care.
Yeah.
So
The culture. Sorry, Jackie. The
Yeah.
culture behind all this is, I mean, if we weren't going into economic downturn, the culture on top of this, like, I'm gonna miss 10 days because I have the sniffles and the PCR test said, like, if we weren't screwed already, like, just the culture of I'm scared of the air.
The first week of this year, literally January, whatever, come back from the holidays, days off or whatever for New Year's, and I test positive, and I had to use a week's vacation, literally the first week of the year, after my vacation hours just re-upped. Like, there goes a third of my vacation for the year.
Wow.
And all I had was an achy knee for about 2 hours, and then I was fine. That was the extent of my COVID symptoms.
That's
What?
crazy. That's crazy. And you probably weren't even freaking contagious either.
I don't know.
So-
I'm not a doctor, so I can't speak to that.
But anyhow.
And that
yeah.
is the answer that everyone should be giving instead of telling you,
Yeah.
I know this or that.
Here's the thing about that, though. I got Google and Facebook, so I'm as good as a doctor.
You're better than a doctor.
Thank you.
You listen to Fauci.
You trust the science.
I
The
saw.
science is safe.
But I didn't finish what I was saying. You guys kind of
Okay,
just
go ahead.
So the last thing I was going to say is that as I was walking past her when she was talking to her friend about masks or the shot or whatever. Oh no, they were talking about something I forgot. And then I was drunk by that time. So anyway, so she said, "Oh, something about during COVID," and I said, "Oh, you were afraid of COVID?" She's like, "Yes, I was. I had people die." And I was like, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Like, I'm really sorry. Like, it wasn't, I was just like shocked that, I guess because I wasn't, you know what I mean? I was just like, whatever about it. I was just like surprised that people were afraid of it. I'm still like shocked, even though I should know because she's like a nut job, but whatever. Anyways, I'm done. Sorry.
I saw a Target commercial today, and it was a back to school thing. And, the kids were running around with backpacks and stuff. And then every once in a while, they'd have a kid with a cloth mask on. All the rest of them were not wearing any masks, but there would be one or two every once in a while that have it. And I'm thinking, who are you marketing toward? I mean, is there a segment of the population that's going to see that and say, "Oh, Target is my kind of place because I'm afraid of sending my kid to school without a mask on right now. So I'm going to go buy stuff from them."
I mean, I question how effective have you ever seen a car commercial? Like, when was the last time you saw a commercial for the new Dodge Ram and go, "Oh my God, I have to go buy that truck now"?
I'll
The
tell
best
you,
is the commercials when, Christmas time when husband walks out and the Lexus has got a bow over the
Right.
Yeah.
roof. Yeah.
It's
I'll
like,
tell you one thing.
what-
Alaska Airlines is my favorite airline for many years. That's like basically only airline I fly unless I'm going overseas. But they did this commercial with the safety dance song, and it was all about COVID and masking and stuff. And I'm like, it makes me not even want to use your airline anymore. Like, it was so cringeworthy.
Wow.
I
Well,
don't
that's-
understand how parents can be maskless but have their kids masked up when an adult is a higher risk per se than a child is. It's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
Not to mention, do you not realize that you and that kid breathe the same air like all day, every day? So if one of you is going to get it, both of you is going to get it. So masking them up or masking you up without them masked up is the same as neither of you having a mask on.
That's my favorite. It's like at the grocery store seeing a couple, like the guy has a mask on, the chick doesn't. It's like, I'm not sure you understand how any of this works.
Right.
That was my wife and I for a while. And I understood how it worked, but she didn't.
Yep, me too. Yeah, they say, oh, the kids need to wear the masks in order to, so they don't bring home the germs to their elderly grandparents and stuff. And I get pissed off when I hear that rationale, because at what point in history have children been responsible for the well-being of adults? That seems ass backward to me.
I'm pretty sure you can go back to like the Aztecs where they were sacrificing children for, you know, like
Well,
to the god of rain.
that might be more effective than giving them masks to wear.
I mean,
That's
and
been the
it-
biggest sin of all of this. It's I don't have the words to explain how angry I am about, you know, there's kids that are in the, you know, say you're 5-6 years old in 2020. How do you grow up and be a functional adult when years of your formative life are be afraid of the air, be afraid of your neighbors, be afraid of talking to people? You can't shake hands, you can't look people in the eye, wear a face cover, you know, like it's just absurd. It's just
well, the glass half full side of that is that in 18 years, when your daughter's of age, she's gonna be able to run circles around all these retards that don't even know how to use English properly.
That's
I know.
exactly what I'm banking on.
My daughter wore a mask one
yeah,
time the entire pandemic.
we're all gonna
And
have to keep in
we were
touch
on
for our
vacation
kids.
in California and went to the children's museum, and anybody over 2 had to wear a mask. And I couldn't be the guy to take the fun away of her not being able to have fun at the museum. So I allowed my wife to put a mask on her. Not allowed. We're a team. We both make the decisions, but I shut my mouth and dealt with it, even though the entire couple hours we were running around the place, I was just cringe the whole time. Like, I don't like seeing her in a mask. I don't like her seeing me in a mask. My son was always awkward looking at me in a mask, and he would reach up and try and pull it down because he wants to see my mouth moving when I'm talking to him.
Right.
He's only 1 years old, or 1 year old.
Yep, I'm with you 100%. It's heartbreaking, all of this. What were you saying, Tunes, in the middle of that?
I'm not sure.
Well, I was agreeing with you, or maybe it was Justin, that, you know, our kids that we have are going to be the tops when they come of age, because we didn't teach them to be scared of the million invisible monsters and that cloth is going to protect them, for, you know, all that bullshit. And I was in agreement with you, whichever one of you said that at the time. And
No, you jogged my memory. We're gonna have to keep in touch so we can have a little group of normal kids.
yeah, okay,
At least pen pals, eh?
yes, 100%. We'll do that. We'll probably have to set up a carrier pigeon system at that point.
Yeah, because
I
I was
mean,
just
not for-
about to call you a status for using the post office to pin them.
Yeah.
I mean, not for nothing though. Like, we're well down the line of complete parallel societies, are we not? Like,
Well, I think the real question is in 18 years, is is the United States of America going to still be a thing?
I mean, finger crossed, no, but
No,
there's a lot of,
Then what will
yeah,
we
fingers
be?
crossed. Hopefully New
Hopefully.
Hampshire, Georgia, Florida.
mhm.
I was just gonna say 50 states.
Yeah.
There'll probably be more. We'll probably have Puerto Rico as the 51st state.
You know
I
what?
just hope some of the free states will welcome me with open arms, because if that happens, I'm definitely getting out of Washington.
Yeah.
We got you down here, doggy. Come on
Yeah,
down to Georgia.
sure thing.
Nothing like 100-degree summers.
If that does happen, I have kind of thought about, like, do I have to apply for immigration to West Virginia? Like,
I'm sure it'll all work itself out. Because
Apparently during the pandemic, if you were traveling from New York down to Florida, there was police on the roads on I-95 turning people around and sending them back.
That's a clear violation of basic,
freedom, yeah, freedom to travel, yeah.
constitutional.
yes, it is, but
standards.
also I'm fine with it. Keep those New York idiots in New York. I don't want them coming down here and ruining my state.
Agreed, but I might be the turd in the punch bowl. Like, I'm one of the good ones. I'm one of the good ones, I promise.
You
We'll get
gotta
you-
understand that these cities like New York, LA, Seattle, they don't represent most of the state. So a New York idiot might be more right leaning than you, and he comes from nowhere near the city. But
New York in
and he's
particular,
just sick
too.
of
Yeah,
the politics there.
New York City controls that state, and I mean, upstate New York is pretty fucking cool. It's real beautiful and like good people. So New York is especially the case. I'm sure it's the same with California, northern versus southern or whatever.
3/4 of Washington state is like desert, and the coast of Washington on this side of the mountains is like the greenest place on earth, and all the left leaners are on this quarter of the state, and 3/4 of the state is like super Trumpy.
So maybe you can get somebody to fake ID you a license plate from Montana or something when the time comes.
Yeah, we'll figure out some sort of underground railroad.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's pretty common in most states that have a high population. It's really just that, the big metropolitan areas are the ones that have that dense population of leftist policies.
I'm
And
pretty sure that's
over the
because
entire city.
you have to be an idiot to live in the city, stacked on top of people on top of people on top of people.
No arguments here.
Like it's just like bait for them.
Yeah, even before I like woke up, I never could see myself being in living in a city. I don't even like driving in a city.
Oh
It-
god, I go to
It
a
kills me.
It's
And I never thought I would be into living in a rural area, but the older I get, the more I just look at land as far away from the city as possible, and I just want to check out.
Yeah. All that being said, though, Jackie is the exception that proves the rule. She lives in, well, I mean, I guess she's probably in Sandy Springs, right? Not Atlanta proper.
Correct. But I'm from South Florida. I mean, I moved here in 06, so
All right, you've been there.
Louisiana, raised in South Florida. Allegedly, I don't really know because I wasn't coherent at birth. However, from what I was told, raised in South Florida. Well, I know that part, but yeah.
Well, were you in Miami or just South?
Fort Lauderdale, Miami
Lauderdale.
area.
Okay.
Yeah. But believe it or not, Miami is very red state. I mean,
Lot
their
of
part,
Cubans,
Broward where
yeah.
I live is very blue.
Mhm.
But that's because of the Cubans, right? Because they don't want communism, because they recognize what it looks like, and they left that place to get out of it.
there's
They
no
should
one
be
more-
libertarians then, because Republicans are communists.
Well, they don't know about libertarians.
They're slightly less communist than the open communists. communists.
Yeah, they're communists from 2008, not communists from now.
Pretty much.
You have friends in Cuba, don't you, Jackie?
No, I mean, I do have a guy there that's he did like the translating and stuff for us and hung out with a couple times when I went over to Cuba. And then I had a Cuban guy that I met over there and then went back and hooked up with, but that was about it. That was pre-COVID.
Okay,
Perks of working for the CIA.
there you go.
Good for you.
They were there during all those protests. Was that, how long ago was that? Was that 2 years ago?
That was during the pandemic. And that's when they were saying it was because they're not getting the vaccine, which was bullshit. It was because like people weren't getting food and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It had nothing to do with the vaccine. But of course, the news, they want to push that. This is how much people want to get the okie doke.
Yeah.
That they are, but yeah, no.
So
Nope.
how would they react if, they're woke in the classic sense, right? In our terminology? Or-
Yeah, because they don't want they want the freedom.
Mhm.
there's-
We don't appreciate our freedom here. We only start to appreciate it once it starts, getting taken away. And I think that was one of the biggest things that people did during the shutdown in the beginning, is they proved that they would listen and they would submit to the tyranny.
Yeah, I really don't know how, well, I know how people still want to maintain the status quo, even in the past couple of years, because they're, I don't know. I don't have an answer. What I'm trying to say
know.
is, I don't know. I'd
Have to get together.
There we go. I'm surprised that anybody hasn't seen the bullshit and the hypocrisy and all the crap that we see from the past couple of years, given the statements made at the beginning of COVID and the flip-flopping that's going on now and the backtracking and all this stuff. How do people not see that?
It has to be just like the normalcy bias, and people are busy, people don't want to, like Justin was saying, rethink their whole existence. It's scary to realize that, it's crumbling around you. We are, the last days of a fallen empire. It's really scary to think about that. But I mean, token trademark Tune's advice: get some chickens, get some guns, grow some food. Like, it's not gonna get any better anytime soon.
Yeah.
I'd argue get the guns before the chickens, though.
Yes, agreed, definitely. But chickens are nice too,
You got to,
especially if you got good neighbors.
you got to
yeah.
protect the chickens, before
Because
you,
if you-
There's raccoons everywhere. Raccoons are going after your chickens.
well, and even if you're hoarding up food and chickens and everything else, you don't have guns to defend them once shit hits the fan. You're just collecting it for your neighbor down the street.
Yep. I like that meme that's, from The Office. You got Jim like smiling smugly through a window, and the caption reads something like, me, smiling at my neighbors, collecting, my gun control neighbors collecting food for me, or something like that.
Instant
Right.
Camp
I
posted that,
pictured
I think.
but-
I think
I don't-
Instant Camp posted that.
I just
I
grabbed.
mean, it is spot on.
Yeah, it's true. We all want to believe that when shit hits the fan, or we'll hope that we're all gonna be friendly and abiding and neighborly, but if your family's in danger, you're gonna pull a gun on your neighbor that you've known for the past 12 years and take his bucket of food if you have to. If
Well,
if it's me or you, it's gonna be me,
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
my theory on guns, if you're trying to prepare for if how bad shit hits the fan, you want to get one of every major caliber. That way, if you run into a supply cache somewhere,
Yeah.
like what if you're all you have is a 9mm, but you just ran into 1,000 bullets of 5.56. Well, I mean, I guess you could try and barter them, but it'd just be a lot easier if you had something that could shoot that to protect your family.
I
At
do
least-
think human nature doesn't allow us to get that bad unless circumstances are incredibly bad. I do think that the majority of us will band together as neighbors to do a more neighborhood watch and more, hey, I have chicken eggs, what do you have? Oh, you have water, let's trade. I think it is human nature to be more agreeable with groups.
Mhm.
But
Sounds like Owen Benjamin's.
the cities are gonna explode and create havoc. But yeah, I agree. Owen Benjamin's idea.
His setup's like the perfect example of that. He has people
Right.
that just come to his house and he leaves them milk and things at his mailbox or whatever. People come and pick up items that he produces on his farm.
Really? I've heard the name, but I really don't know who Owen Benjamin is.
I think he calls it Beartaria or something like that. He's the first most canceled person in Hollywood.
Yeah, he's been growing
canceled
on
for
me
like
lately.
6 years.
I would suggest you look into him. He's been growing on me. He was ahead of the curve.
What is he famous for?
He was
He was an actor and comedian. He was on a bunch of TV shows. He was in movies. He dated Christina Ricci, and everyone canceled him.
Well, he's got good taste.
Why did they cancel him?
because he said that 3-year-olds are not trans.
About
Wow.
6 years ago, he was ahead of the curve on everything.
Wow.
He's been calling out all the woke stuff for many years.
And I don't I'm a big fan of his wife too. She's excellent on the eyes, and she's also like she's down for the homestead. We should if you don't have a wife like that, you should try finding one, or husband for our female listeners and podcast hosts.
What
Or
about
for our
gender fluid?
male listeners who like men, that's cool too,
Sure.
as long as they're consenting.
Let's say we talked a lot, we mentioned, the inevitable fall of the US empire here. But the white pill would just be, as Ron Paul always, puts it, look at the USSR versus Russia today. Yeah, there was a lot of hardships during the transition, but now Russia is a much freer and more prosperous place than the USSR ever was.
Mhm.
I may argue that Russia is much freer than where I live, but that may be a different
the
episode.
free state of
I
New
don't know
Hampshire.
about that, because we could still talk smack about the president at this point in time, as long as we're not that well known and not be killed over it. Whereas I think that may be a little bit different over there.
I don't know. I think there's a character in Game of Thrones named Peter Baelish, and he said once that it's chaos, and I'm referring to the fall of the American empire. Chaos is not a pit, not a black pit. Chaos is a ladder. And I think if all of us can stay strong and let the dumb masses fall down away, from us when the everything falls away, and if we raise our kids right to be independent and strong people, I think we'll be okay. We'll weather the storm, and we'll come out on top on the other side.
I strongly agree with that. I think generationally we speaking, people on this podcast, people in the Discord, people listening to this podcast are in good shape, but the masses as a whole are in for a cold, hungry winter, especially in Europe.
That's right. Well, do we want to wrap this up?
Yeah, does anybody
Yeah,
have
time.
any last thing that they'd like to say? And then I'll close this out.
Yeah, I just hope that people don't lose hope, be positive, collaborate with like-minded people, while at the same time not forcing themselves into an echo chamber where you just all agree on everything together. There's nothing everyone in here doesn't agree on everything. And that's what makes it fun, and that's what gives us good conversation, because we can discuss things instead of just like shouting what we think are facts and everybody be like, huzzah, like, yes, we agree with that, everything. So yeah, just like surround yourself with good people and don't lose hope.
It's have the humility to recognize that no one knows everything, including yourself. That's, I think, check yourself. It's half the people out there are by definition below average, and I'm below average. But once you recognize that everyone is dumb, you can start leveling and talking with people. Hopefully their ego is in check and they're able to humble themselves.
Right. I agree 100%. All right. So how can people find us on the internet, Jackie?
All right. Yes. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to unionoftheunknowns.com. That's where you'll be able to find our Discord page. So please join us on Discord if you want to see the funny memes that our ding dongs post. You'll definitely have the opportunity to see that there. If you reach out to us if you have a topic, I'm going to give you our phone number as well, which you can also find on our website, but that's 404-519-2521. And then reach out if you have a topic ideas, have a funny comment, something nice to say, or you'd like to join us on our podcast.
Or something mean to say. Feel free to send in the hate mail too.
Well, I was leaving that out because whatever. But it could be funny, but who knows, Anyways, just go ahead and shoot in your comments to us. You'll be able to find our Twitter page, our Discord, our phone number, our email, everything right at unionoftheunknowns.com. And I think Perm is going to close us out, and you guys all have a bitchin' night.
Yep. Good to see everybody. Thanks for joining.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Union of the Unknowns. You can find a new episode every month on all your favorite podcasting networks.